As you know, this is Kewayne Tech. I'm back again. My name is Niyama, the instructor. Last time we talked about first generation computers. We saw some of the history and the people who were involved in doing things on those machines and the things that the machines were able to do during those times. We don't want to waste much time. We want to move into our next one, which is our second generation computers. That is what we are coming to talk about today. So as you can see on the screen, second generation computers. So now what are these second generation computers? We've talked about the first generation already. We've seen some of the IBMs, the Univacs, we've seen them already. We want to move into our second generation and see what is involved. So down there you can see a very nice picture. This is one indication of a second generation computer. But what it is? What is it? Okay, so overview. What are we going to talk about in this second generation computer? History. We want to talk about some of the examples and the characteristics of it, and then some of the challenges involved in the second generation computers. So today, let's move. Let's come to the history. The era of these second generation computers began 1957 through 1963, and this era is called the transistor era. Why is it called the transistor era? So look there, you see a very nice diagram over there indicating the transistor. So sometimes when we see some of the electronic circuit boards, we see some of these things on it. But here we are going to talk about the transistor itself. What came about? What happened? How did they manage to use those transistors in these second generation computers? Why is it called the transistor era? So yes, this generation of computers moved the computing technology up with significant features. What are some of the features? In those times, they were using the vacuum tubes, so they were very big, they were bulky, and they were unreliable as well. But with the transistors, they were able to get smaller computer, very faster one, more reliable and more energy efficient than the first generation computers, which has helped a lot. It has helped a lot, yes. And the transistors helped to develop a better computer, better one than the first generation computers that consist of those vacuum tubes. They were very big. They were very, very big. But here you can see that the transistors are very small here, which shows that the computers became much smaller. Let's move on. Now, in the first generation computers, we didn't see any programming languages that were used because they were doing so many things like addition and subtraction. Those are some of the things that they were doing because they were just computing numbers, helping scientists to do some of the engineering computations. But here we want to talk about programming languages used in the second generation computers. So one of the most significant advancements when it comes to the second generation was the introduction of high-level programming languages. Languages that are going to tell the computer exactly what to do. And what are some of the programming languages used? We have the first one, which is the Fortran, and then we have the COBOL. The Fortran, it means formula translation. So that was the one that the scientists were using for their scientific and engineering computations. That was the exact thing they were doing. That is why we call it a programming language. It is designed to actually do something, help the computer to do one particular something. And then we have the other one, the COBOL, which is the common business-oriented language. And that one is simply designed for business data processing. That's all. So it was used in these banks and these big companies for their data processing. It helped them a lot. And one thing it helped programmers in those days was these languages made programming more accessible and efficient. Accelerating software development helped to develop more softwares that were used in those days, and now people are using it to develop more and more programming languages that are helping a lot. Now, what are some of the popular second generation computers? The first one we can see over here is the IBM 1401. IBM, which is International Business Machine, created some series of computers in the first generation. It helped. So when the introduction of transistors came, they said, no, we have to sit and then design another one again. which is the IBM 1401, and they design most series in this aspect as well. So what are some of the key features of the IBM 1401? So unlike the first one, which is the first generation computers, this one were designed for business applications, which handles decimal numbers. You know, sometimes when you go to the bank, decimal numbers are the ones that are used very well. Point, 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 everything. Yes, but here, this machine was designed to handle those decimal numbers, unlike the first generation computers. And they were using the punch cards for their data input and then output. That was what they were using by then. And one thing they were using as well too is the magnetic tape drives for data storage and then data retrieval to help them a lot, because those tape drives were little faster data processing devices. They store data faster, you can retrieve them faster as well. And then they were also designed, rather than they processing binary digits, they were making things easier for the business world. They were helping the business applications very well. So they were able to do so many processing, not only the binary digits, but they were able to go beyond that. And compared to the earlier computers, the 1401 was more accessible to businesses. So a lot of businesses were using those ones rather than the other first generation computers. Now we have another one to here, the IBM 7090. So I told you from the beginning that International Business Machine, which is IBM, were the ones who were introducing some of these machines. And when something comes, they also try to come up with other features. So they came up with the IBM 7090 series. So what are some of the features? Those ones uses transistors, and those transistors made it very easier and faster and more reliable, and they were very small, as we can see in the picture by then, compared to the vacuum tubes one that were used in the first generation computers. And this one uses the magnetic core memory, and it uses a 36-bit word length designed for scientific and engineering computations. So unlike the first one, which were using only the binary digits, which are the zeros and the ones, this one can use the 36-bit long word that was designed for scientific and engineering computations. And it can handle multiple tasks simultaneously. Things can be done at the same time when using this IBM 7090. So we see that there was an advancement in all the things that were created by then. And what about the CDC 1604? That was another type of second generation computers. That one too uses what? Transistor. But this one uses 48-bit word length, which provides ample precision for scientific calculations. It helps the scientists a lot. And it uses the magnetic core memory too as the primary storage device as compared to the other ones. And it has high performance speed and computational power, and making it suitable for complex scientific and engineering problems that were being faced by then. So look at the machine very well. The CDC 1604. It's a very nice machine. So these are some of the key features of it. Then we have the UNIVAC 1108. 1108. That's the Universal Automatic Computer. What are some of the features of this UNIVAC 1108? It also uses the same transistors again, which made it very faster, more reliable, and small. It also uses the magnetic core memory as their primary storage device as well. And this uses the 36-bit word length designed for scientific and engineering computations. And then it could handle multiple tasks simultaneously. Why? Because of the use of transistors. It helped in data processing very fast. Then the 1101 was used for a wide range of applications. What are some of them? Scientific, computing, business data processing, and then some of the government works. It does all of them, which helps this machine to be a unique one when it comes to these second generation computers. So we've talked about the examples of second generation computers. Now we want to move to the key characters of second generation computers. What are some of the things that were used? That is, the transistors were used for as their primary component. Transistors. So unlike the first generation computer, which uses vacuum tubes as their primary component, the second generation also uses the transistors as its primary component. And they use the magnetic core memory as their primary storage devices. And what about their secondary storage devices? That was where they used the magnetic tapes and so many disks. What about programs? They were able to bring about high-level programming languages. Those ones were introduced into it. And then what about operating systems? They introduced so many operating systems that can work or manage multiple jobs simultaneously. Things can be done easily. Like the way we have computers now that you can be using Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, and Microsoft PowerPoint. Sometimes you can even be playing music or watching movies, doing so many things at a time. By then, the second generation computers couldn't do such things, but they were able to manage multiple jobs simultaneously. So that was a good try when it comes to the second generation computers. Now, you can't get something without advantage and disadvantage. So we have some advantages of the second generation computers, and then we have some disadvantages of the second generation computers. So the advantages, they are smaller in size, they are more reliable, they use less power and generate less heat. What about the speed? The speed of the second generation is faster than the first generation because they told us that those things can perform simultaneous works. They can do so many things at the same time. And second generation computers have also improved the accuracy and offer better portability. At least it became a little smaller than the first generation computers. Doesn't mean there is no disadvantage of these second generation computers. There is. So as we know, they generate less heat but still require a cooling system. Most of them need air conditions, very chilled room before they can perform their functions very well. And they require frequent maintenance because those times it was a little bigger, not so big, but it was bigger, so it need frequent maintenance. And the commercial production of second generation computers were very, very difficult. Why are we saying that? It was expensive. Not everyone can buy such a machine because it takes time before they were able to come out with something like that. So when buying it, it was very difficult. It was very expensive by then. And most of them were used for specific purpose. You can't use them like the way we use computers in doing multiple tasks today. No, you can't use them that way. So if you go and you want a second generation computer, they will design it for that purpose alone, for whatever you are looking for alone. And they also use punch cards for their inputs. So unlike the ones we are using keyboard and mouse and so on and so forth to be doing our inputs and those things, those times they were using only the punched cards, as you can see in so many images that were shown. So here, there were some challenges and limitations of the second generation computers. So although transistors were more efficient, they were better than the vacuum tubes, but they still generated heat, which require a cooling system. So yes, it was a challenge. When you buy those machines, you have to get a very nice cooling system before you can be able to use the machine very well. They were reliable than the previous ones, but they still require regular maintenance and adjustments. You have to keep them very well. They were cheaper to produce than the first generation, but they were still relatively expensive, as I've explained for a while now. See that they were expensive because getting it is very difficult because the things that were involved in this manufacturing of the machines were so much, so you need to pay a lot before you can acquire one. They were smaller than the vacuum tube machines but were still bulky, and they are not easily portable like what we have, the laptops and the desktops that we have now. They were not portable like that. And then the input methods like punch cards and tape were slow and error prone. If anything happened to the punch card, that's all. Unlike today when we are using keyboard, if the keyboard gets spoiled, we know we can at least use the mouse for a while, or we can get another input device that we can attach to the machine and then start using it again. But those times the punch cards and the tapes were the only ones that were used, and they were slow and error prone as well. They can cause damage at any time. So yes, what are some of the specific applications of these second generation computers? So in the business world, they were using it. In the scientific world too, they were there. The government institutions, they were there. The military also used those things. And in the business, they were handling the payroll, then the inventory, and then the accounting task. What about the science? They perform complex calculations for research and engineering. And in the government institutions, they were used at data processing and analysis. And then the military, simulations and then logistics. It helps them a lot in those days. So yes, we are done with our second generation computers. Now we want to move on to the third generation computers. Very well. There will be some exercises that will be going on in a while. So you can stay tuned to get some of the exercises so that you can sit at home everywhere you are watching this, then you can do your exercise and mark it on your own as well. Thank you for watching. We'll meet in the next video. So you can subscribe, like, and share our videos. This is Kewayne Tech. Thank you.